The next question comes from a viewer who's suffering from addiction, and he doesn't know how to overcome it. Dear Rabbi Schonbuch, I started developing addictions when I was in high school. My friends suggested that I try some illegal drugs, and I did so and enjoyed doing so for several years. However, after a few years of taking these drugs, I started getting involved in worse abuse substance to the point where I believe I'm now totally addicted. What should I do? Dear viewer, I'm so sorry to hear that you're going through such a terrible time. Unfortunately, there are so many people in our society that suffer from addictions. They can become addicted to alcohol, they can be addicted to drugs, or they can have what we call process addictions. They can become gambling addicts or internet addicts. These are very difficult things that many people are suffering today, but I want to tell you there's some things that can really help you get over your addiction. There is something called the 12 steps. The 12 steps was brought into the Jewish community a number of years ago by the famous Rabbi Dr. Abraham Tursky. Where do the 12 steps come from? The 12 steps come from two very wise people in the southern United States in the 1930s who themselves were alcoholics. They started seeing that our society has many types of problems, and alcohol is one of the biggest problems that we face. But they decided there's only one way out, and they created something called the 12 steps that helped them overcome addiction. And they wrote something called the Big Book. The 12 steps are extremely powerful. Let's just go through the first 3 steps to understand the power of how to overcome an addiction. The first of the 12 steps is admitting that you have a problem and that you're powerless to overcoming what you're going through. This is indeed extremely important. And you very bravely have written me a letter saying, listen, I'm in trouble. I have this terrible addiction. Kol kavod to you. That's the first step. The first step is always admitting you have a problem. And I'm sure you've met so many people that say, I don't have a problem. I'm not an alcoholic. I can drink and I can stop. Well, I don't know if it's true. Maybe they can drink and they can stop sometimes, but if they're in a social situation where there's a lot of peer pressure, they can't stop drinking. Perhaps they're leading their life towards becoming an alcoholic. But you have taken on a different direction. You've admitted now that you actually have a very serious problem. That's the first step in the road towards recovery. Step number 2 is extremely powerful. According to these 12 steps, a person that has an addiction has often lost a sense of free will. They become a slave or a victim to their addiction. There's no way out. They're feeling like they're boxed in, like the world is a cloudy and dangerous place to be in, and there's no escape from the pain. Well, if you've gotten to this point, which is called rock bottom, this is the second step now. Realizing, 1, that you have an addiction. But now, number 2, realizing that you cannot really help yourself. You need something greater than yourself to overcome your addiction. And according to the 12 steps, this greater power is God, Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank God, as Jews, we have the belief that there's a God in the world who created this world, and not only created the world, but sustains the world at every moment and actually cares about every individual. It's that same God that brought the Jewish people out of Egypt. It's the same God that saved Abraham from being burnt alive. That is the God that helps us every day in our lives, even when we don't recognize His presence in our day-to-day moments. It's that God that we can also turn towards to get us out of our addiction. A very famous psychiatrist, Viktor Frankl, once said, if you reach behind your back, you cannot grab your shoulders and pick yourself up. Indeed, you need something higher than yourselves to pick yourself up higher. In the 12 steps, specifically in the second step, that higher power is God. Therefore, I want you to turn towards God in a way perhaps you've never done so before. I want you to turn towards God and ask Him for help. Please help me out of this. Show me the way out of this. I need you to get beyond my addiction because I can't do it alone. Then the third step is make a decision to turn your will over to God's will. What does God want from you? What does He want you to do in this world? How does He want you to behave? Become His representative in the world. by carrying out His will. His will is defined in our Torah. Let's just start with the basics. Look at the 10 Commandments. What does God want from me in this world? He wants me to believe in Him. He wants me to keep the Sabbath. He wants me to honor my parents. He doesn't want me to blaspheme His name. He doesn't want me to kill, to steal, and to covet people. These are very, very important principles in the Torah. See if you can see yourself as a representative in this world, carrying out His will. This will require you to give up some of your ego, to not look at the world as a place that is just for yours for taking, but look at yourself as being placed in this world to carry out tasks from God Himself. And beyond the 10 Commandments, there's 613 commandments, and an entire Torah that was written to teach you how to live your life properly. I suggest you consider looking at these 3 principles. 1, admitting you have a problem. 2, turning towards God to help you out of those problems. And 3, turning your will into God's will. If you do these first 3 things successfully, I believe you'll have a greater chance of overcoming your addiction. And don't stop with the 3 steps. Go on to all 12 steps. They're quite remarkable. Dr. Abraham Tversky has written many books which are a great introduction from a Torah scholar on how to access and implement the 12 steps in your life. And there's a lot of support for you. If you can't just do it alone, it is often suggested you join a 12 steps group. Look for other people that can help you. There are many people that have actually overcome addictions, and you'll meet them in group settings and be able to learn from their experience and gain chizuk, strength from how they've overcome their addiction and how you can come your addiction more effectively as well. Welcome to this new series on Hidabrut called Marriage Matters. My name is Rabbi Daniel Schonbuch, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist based in New York and around the world via Skype. On this important series, I will be answering your questions you have about marriage, relationships, dating, parenting, and about any issue dealing with family and relationships. But more than what I have to say, I want to hear what you have to say. So please email to this address and send in your questions, and I'll try to answer as many questions on this new show.